Hi, I'm Trevor from TrevorDumbleton.com, and today we're going to talk about keeping up with the constant changes that are internet marketing and actually near enough any other market you're involved in. But as far as I can work out, internet marketing is probably the fastest changing area I've actually ever been involved with in 40 plus years. An advertising platform I use has transformed at least 3 times in 18 months. Facebook seems to be changing even more than that, and Google, well, they're just famous for changing the rules for both paid and organic search at the drop of a hat, and they tend to do it 2, 3, 4 times a year as well. So it's constant change near enough. So how can you cope? Obviously one option is quit the market altogether. It's quite defeatist, but for instance it's happened a lot with people offering search engine optimization services. The methods they used stopped working, clients left them, and they couldn't figure out fast enough how to change what they were doing, which was quite often claiming they weren't spamming but actually spamming, and there's a lot fallen by the wayside. It happens all the time with people who start internet marketing as well, because they think it's easy. You look at it, well, all you do is put up a web page and some adverts and you make money. And then they drop out because it's not that easy, and dropping out I think is a defeatist option, not one to be taken just as a knee-jerk reaction. You can't just look at it and say, I didn't make any sales yesterday, I'm getting out of the market. It has to be longer term than that. The actual methods you use change, but the fundamental idea of marketing stays pretty much the same. Human nature hasn't changed any time in the last, well, quite a few thousand years. We still react. We might react to slightly different words, but the same things. If you go study any of the ancient books, it says ancient, ones that are over 100 years old, things like scientific advertising, you'll find that they're not as brash, but they still work and they're still used. Actually a lot in internet marketing, but that's a completely different subject. I'm going back again, when it's before my time, but when the postal service first took off, most of London had somewhere between 6 and 12 deliveries a day. Quite expensive if you're paying a penny in old money, and in real terms that's scarily expensive, but it allowed the post to work pretty much the same way as email does now. You'd organise to go out with someone, meet up for a cup of tea in the afternoon, all sorts of things like that. And okay, that's not really fast enough for modern users, and email isn't really either, because email's kind of weird. But we've got instant chat systems, we can use Skype, we can use chat on Facebook, we can use other programs, and then there's SMS texts which are used. Teenagers apparently use something like some scary 100 a day, something stupid, and that allows complete conversations near enough with that. But again, for marketing purposes that's overkill. 1 a day, 1 a week would probably work. And the plus with that kind of thing, if you can work it into your marketing system, is things like instant chat and text get read near enough instantly. I think the figures on text are something like 95% within a couple of minutes, whereas email, it just sits there and waits for the recipient to get it, and if it scrolls off the front page they may never get it. It's just yet another one in the figures of unread messages. So what does all this mean to you? And the upshot of these changes, you need to keep monitoring whether or not the methods you've always used are still working, or whether there's something else on the horizon, or that you kind of ignored, like I ignored Twitter most of the time, that could work better for you. And quite an interesting, for instance in internet marketing, is that big email lists are often stated as kind of the holy grail, one of the goals you should aim for in your internet marketing business. And I'm not totally convinced that's true any longer, if it ever was true. Email lists have always rotted in the same way as links rot, in that with links they disappear, with emails responsiveness drops over time. People don't take the time and effort. It's much more effort to click a link to unsubscribe, even though you only got to do it once, than it is just press delete or just ignore it. And email marketing, pretty much almost certainly, even back in the days when I first started in the mid-1990s, there'd have been rot on email lists, but I think it's happening more and more and more. And I've noticed with my own lists the responsiveness drops after around 30 to 60 days or so on joining, sometimes even less, sometimes within a day or two. Other marketers I follow have said pretty much the same happens with their list, and at least one marketer I'm aware of puts all their email marketing effort into the first 30 days of someone joining them, and then after that they just move on to a holding pattern of sending them out any email broadcasts they send out if they haven't moved on to a purchase. Obviously they're moving, they separate their buyers lists and different segments of their buyers lists, and if you've got enough people, it's worth doing that. But if you've got an email list, you need to have some kind of system in place to check the responsiveness in the same way as that marketer's doing. And since not every email program loads the small 1 pixel size image, you can't just use open rates from your autoresponder service as the indicator of whether people have read it or not, because for instance the email program I use doesn't automatically do it, so I count as not read all the time even though I might be reading it. So you need to work out whatever it happens to be, and no single method for doing that, but there are lots of different ways, just saying, please confirm, please click this link just to show you're still alive, that kind of thing. And another thing you can do to help you keep up with the changes is check your tongue twister website statistics occasionally, and that could be Google Analytics, it could be the stats built into your control panel, or any other system. Doesn't really matter which one, and don't obsess over it. But what matters is paying attention to the pages people are looking at. The search engines nowadays keep most of the keyword search data secret. They want to sell it to advertisers rather than give it away for free to you. You used to be able to analyse the keywords, but you can't do that anymore, so it's not realistic. But if you've got a reasonable sized site with quite a few pages covering a number of topics, it's definitely worth looking for shifts in what people are looking at. And if what they're looking at hasn't changed, that's fine, probably fine. And if there's been a shift, you need to make sure you keep on top of the changes. Either way, go back to your most popular pages every now and then, once every 2-3 months, something like that, and check whether you could create more content about the topics people are most interested in, or whether those pages actually are still what you want to tell people. And quite often it's a bit like visiting tourist attractions in your hometown, it's always tomorrow. And the same goes with checking your website. You need to do it more often though, because it is the image you're putting up to the world. It's simple. Once you've worked out what people are looking at, you can then work out whether you could offer people a short report that goes into more depth than a web page can do. And short really does mean that. It means short. Nowadays, again, a short report could be a single sheet, but usually between 3 and 10 pages if it's a PDF. About the same number of minutes if it's an video and audio, so between 3 and 10 minutes. And then, assuming that you've swapped the report for an email address, so they've put it in as a sign-up form, keep emailing people with more useful information and a call to action in each email. And that's how you keep your email list alive. And a daily email for the first 30 days should be your aim. You'll get unsubscribes, that's fine. They're kind of the email equivalent of someone just saying, just looking in a shop. It just means they're not ready to, well, do whatever it was they thought they might be ready to at the time. And it's just part of doing business. Don't sweat it. But do this exercise of revisiting the pages you've got, the ones that people are looking at regularly, to make sure that you're in touch with the changes that are inevitably happening in your internet marketing. So thanks for doing this, and if you'd like more information, my website is trevordumbleton.com. Pop along there and there's lots more information there. Okay, thanks very much.